Hello, dear hearts. I'm bringing you the astrological forecast for the end of the year, starting with the point of the solar shift from Sagittarius into Capricorn, which also marks the solstice in the southern and northern hemispheres. Now, whether you're in the northern or southern hemisphere, of course, you'll be experiencing either the winter or the summer solstice. However, the message for the end of year in terms of the energy is very similar, regardless of where you are, because it is very much about the dying portion of the year. So, starting the astrological update for the end of year, which is an important, quite, I think, full, lesson full end of year period, from this 21st of December up until the very 1st, 2nd of January 2024. So I felt the need to just prepare you for this festive time and give you also encouragement to take your own personal time out and breathers amidst it all, because it will be needed. Mercury is in retrograde as well. We also have some quite important aspects with our lunar nodes, southern and northern, and it's saying to us in all areas astrological that it's better to sometimes just step back and let things happen without trying to force or engage too much with our own expectations, aims, or means. Looking at the Mercury retrograde as well, right at the height of this festive season, naturally is having us, revisit so much of that has been left undone, being on that Capricorn Sagittarian cusp. It's definitely looking for answers internally as opposed to externally, and wanting to put in the effort to revisit necessary themes that will resurface. So of course I'm going to give you a very in-depth understanding of what this is all about, the whole thing, the whole end of year astrologically. But as I said, starting with the solstice energy, and how this solar shift from Sagittarius into Capricorn is going to pave the way for quite the end of year. As you can hear it in me, in my own tone, I am quite low, quite down, and I think we all are, especially if we are connected to our hearts and at least are willing to be receptive to everything that's taking place everywhere, not just with the wars, because there is many wars happening right now, but also to, I think, the intensity of so much that has been taking place that we have no power or say over, when we look at things like the inflations worldwide, mind you, in terms of costs of living and transportation, costs of everything, being able to even consider things like eating out, once a fortnight or whatever, have become so hard for so many, and things like just general grocery shopping, all the bare necessities that we've been talking about for a very long time now, that is something we've had to focus on and bring our minds to, our attention to, as we were working with the preparatory energy going into this, if you remember, Taurian direction with the lunar nodes, and now it's actually the direction of Aries. So we had that as a very big theme in the last couple of years. And yeah, these bare necessities are being challenged. They're being challenged so much by all of what's taking place, and it's sad to look at it all. So many changes are happening on a worldwide level that we really don't even have a chance to speak up about, or try and say, no, wait a minute, no, we actually don't want that to happen that way, or why is this happening, and get an honest answer. But it's almost as though we're being put, whether we like it or not, worldwide, into a kind of general kind of way of living, just being put into a very hard version of that. And, if we're very well off, economically, because some of us must be and are, it may not be as instantly easy to notice, but when you do have a lot of kids that you have to feed and take care of in school and support, when you are having to relate to just the process of what it means to also be available to others that may rely or depend on you, I'm sure it will be very easy to notice that actually, things are pretty tough, So wherever you are on the spectrum of your own kind of livelihood, it's definitely not easy now. And this has been predicted when we did the Capricornian climax predictions. When I wrote all about this, what was going to take place right now, back in 2014, I really did mark 2020 as the point where all these changes will really start. And that climb, that Capricornian climactic climb starting from 2011 was really serious for the collective. And on a collective level, of course, and I will touch on it, there is, of course, always opportunity in these very difficult moments. But it's still as part of it all being hard, it's still necessary to seek out that opportunity and to seek out the way that we can work with this all for the utmost benefits. So yeah, it's really tricky. With all these wars, I think most of us aren't even able to look at what's taking place, right? We're not even able to connect with it visually because it's just too much. But I think, at least for all of us who are, watching this, listening into this, it is too much, isn't it? I mean, for you all to be interested in such updates, it's only normal that you really do care, right, about all of these very catastrophic moments. And because we're all interlinked, there's not one thread that is separated from the tapestry of the whole here. And therefore, we are definitely in tune with all of what's taking place, north, south, east, west, and everywhere basically on this earth and beyond. So yeah, if extra degrees of lowness, depression, heaviness in the heart are happening and we can't quite figure out what it's all about, try not to make it a personal sense of experience. Open your heart up more to the bigger degree of everything that's happening, because I'm sure you're really picking up on that, and it's actually a call for help. It's actually a call that is coming from a true level, really saying, please, use your empathy, use your kind heart to just sit with what you're feeling, whether it be the pain, the hardship, whether you're, being challenged just by all of this awfulness that is happening everywhere, and the difficulties in terms of the times, as I mentioned, with the inflations, the uncontrollable worldwide, forced into some kind of like survival mode for everyone, basically, where we're more scared and we don't know if we'll have enough pennies for tomorrow. This state also, it creates the difficulty to even be able to help and support bigger issues like the wars and so on, if we're so busy trying to survive as well, right? So you see, it is quite difficult. So wherever we are on the spectrum, whether we're well off or not, or somewhere in the middle, I mean, regardless of where we are, one thing we definitely all have, and that is functioning, is our heart. And that's the place that we need to relate to at this point. It's a universal call. It's our truest part. It's our truest heart really calling out and saying, this is painful. This is very difficult to witness. This is too much. How can this be happening? Have I just what nightmare are we living in, right? In this respect, at the same moment as all that is coming up, you can call into your heart and really sit with, and if not sit with, first seek out before you sit with, that ability to just really embrace it all and not be scared to, and therefore be able to generate a lot of tenderness, more depth of truth in your ability to love and care for the circumstances. And then that can generate a lot of wishes to heal everything, everyone, this earth, everything, including ourselves, and to not lose heart. We have to confront, we have to face, as hard as it is, we've got to, and the heart is strong, the more we use it as a muscle, the stronger it gets, right? So we have to use it, and we have to be very aware of its value in these difficulties of the times. So on a very sincere altruistic point of opportunity here, as the external world becomes more and more nuts, and very difficult to comprehend, change, resolve, deal with, because of the volatility, because of the general, I guess, gloominess that's just in so many people's environments right now. And that point of a possibility in altruism is that we still, regardless of where we are and where we are on the spectrum of all things, we can still really contribute through our hearts to a deep wish and yearning for things to get better. And there is opportunity through all this too to actually see that, well, perhaps all of what we give our time to and commit to and think about and stress over, maybe it's not as important as we thought, and maybe there's so much more that we haven't been really dedicating our energy and time to that is worth, a multitude of more value and depth than how life has been spent up until now. So it is a deep pulse of reality, a kind of reality that is a bit of a cold shower, but it is useful, because then we will be more ready to give our time and energy to what really counts. And that is extreme as it sounds. And it is extreme because it is indeed mirroring the times that we're in. So where does that extreme energy go? Where are we going to flow towards with that understanding of what it means to be in an extreme wave of time? And where will we flow with that? We can still definitely decide, and we have so much more authority over where we give our time and energy to than we think. So there are so many great things, that can be done. But first and foremost, it is this reconnecting with the most sincere part of our being, and that is our heart. There's so much taking place that is trying to disconnect us from our heart. I'm sure you've written yourselves out there all sorts of expressions in your journals and in your own writings and sharings that come from that place, that authentic presence. And I've also done so. I've written so much about the heart in my works, and it is really the main part of our being that is being targeted. Whether it's consciously or not, it doesn't matter. But when we look at the rise of artificial intelligence, which comes very much in alignment with the Pluto in Aquarius timeline, and many other things do too, and that's a huge offering that I'm going to give you all, but that's going to be just focusing on this, and I've mentioned this a lot because it is very in-depth. But just a little flavor, one part of it is this huge uprise of artificial intelligence. And it is coming at us very intensely, and it's no coincidence that it's coming at us at the same time as Pluto's stabilizing into Aquarius period, coming out of Capricorn into Aquarius, back to Capricorn, and then eventually stabilizing into Aquarius. It's absolutely no coincidence that it's happening at the same time. And that, whether people are consciously aware of it or not, it does really disconnect this humanness, what it means to be human. It disconnects that from the heart, from our truest authenticity. So how do we, as human beings, so to speak, how do we carry on, continue on with all of this happening simultaneously? How do we live in healthy harmony with such enormous changes that are happening on an external level? Again, with things such as the uprise of AI and how that will dominate and further dominate as the days and months pass by. How do we have that authentic, harmonious, ongoing, sincere presence, not disconnecting from our hearts, not disconnecting from that very amazing quality of being human? How do we do that? How do we manage? So these are one of the big questions with the 20 or so years of Pluto in Aquarius, right? And then we've got right now this link to endings and beginnings, no matter where we are in terms of northern and southern hemispheres. This solstice being peak, whether it be the peak of the dark or the peak of the light, still on the same pole. And when I say that, I mean it just depends on where you are on the globe, whether it's the peak of light experience, peak of the dark experience. There is still an extreme when we talk about solstice energy, and an important one, because it is either supporting what we can do around rejoicing, being thankful, because the peak of light is all about that, being grateful for all that's been accomplished, for all the fruits of our labor, for everything that has reached that peak of the pyramid, before it then cyclically goes back into the underworld. And that peak of dark is that process that is, all about creation, starting point, right? Conception in so many ways. And it's a very mystical time, peak of dark, because a lot goes underground, but it's very awake and very alive there. So both are representations of these important extremes in all cycles. And we also have the equalizers, the points of equipoise, which are linked to the equinoxes. So you can see that's 4 main points in one calendar year. So in this extreme point, it's linked again very much to endings and beginnings, and solstices are that. They have that portal, they have that intensity of change attached to them, and they work with the heat of fire at its peak, or the point of dark that is at its peak, that is cultivating all sorts of degrees of light and possibility. But there's a lot of mystery there. So you can honor this time again by being able to rejoice and also mourn, depending on where you are in the hemispheres. Because, we do need to mourn. It's part of the cycles of all things. And we also need to rejoice. That's also part of the cycles of all things. So wherever you are in the spectrum of things, it's good to be aware of either or. But regardless of the hemispheres, the dying portion of the year is always from October, Halloween time approximately, pretty much when the sun shifts from Libra into Scorpio, and it takes us all the way up until the astrological new year, the dying portion of the year that is, which comes just a little bit around the equinox of March, and as the sun shifts into Aries from Pisces. So that period, that dying period, is very much linked to the sacred feminine energy and how she works and moves through us all. And the period of the equinox in March up until what I mentioned in October, and the solar shift there from Libra into Scorpio, you know, it's working very much with the sacred masculine energy. It's more about the uprise of energy. Also, the sun also can reach a certain peak as well when it's linked to Leo in our skies and very much in its home position there. So all of this is good to be aware of, because everything is a cycle, absolutely everything. And we are in many ways forgetful of the natural law and order, and that's perhaps why there's so much destruction nowadays. A lot of it is unnecessary because we have neglected the beauty of the natural order. And this is why things like technology and the uprise of AI and the potential dangers linked to such things creates already a lot of unexplainable imbalances. In fact, so much on this planet, especially in the last couple of decades, has been released with so much force and vigor. But there's not been enough time to study what is being released and what the long-term damages will be in terms of how it will impact this earth, peoples, and species. So if we're not putting enough time and energy into proper study of how things will impact us before they're being released, it's already quite disrespectful, isn't it? Because it seems like it's all about a quick, time-limited fix of some form, like a shot, that it doesn't really matter if you have a hangover tomorrow, you know? So imagine that in high quantity, like 10 shots. You know, you won't even be able to get up tomorrow. So what I'm trying to say here is there's just a lot being thrown out into this earth without any care about how that will impact future generations, how that will even impact our generation. It's incredible to even, in a negative sense, to even think about how much damage has been done in just one generation, 4 or so decades. So with all of this, it's important this end of year to be very mindful of our heart space, to be able to have time for ourselves in amidst all of the demands around social interaction, to also see that creativity and inspiration now can be found in very incredibly surprising places. You know, you might have a moment of deep creativity and inspiration doing something very mundane, but because it's so naturally in rhythm with the law of everything, you know, the original law of cycles of existence and how it breathes through things naturally. Once again, in inverted brackets, you know, you might have this massive creative rain. So be ready for that. Be ready for doing, you know, something as simple as appreciating a tree, you know, or a leaf falling from a tree, and then have so much happen to you on an inspirational and creative level. Okay. I also would like to say that we have the full moon coming up, of course, as well, this end of the year in Cancer, which is always a uniquely giving homecoming that can offer so much nourishment. The moon being at home and full in Cancer, it can really hold us, you know, like going home to mama, like having a warm embrace from mama, you know, in that deepest, warmest part of our being. We can find that, but there's also so much extra access to sensitivity around this time of year, and I need to be aware of it, to what we're receptive to, what we're absorbing, because we're absorbing a lot. And sure, with Mercury being in retrograde, as I mentioned, working through Capricorn and Sagittarius, it wants the right questions being asked internally. It wants the inner truth seeker's quest to take place. It wants that, deep dive, that deep journey of, what's my purpose? What am I missing now in life? What can I really do to help? Where can I find the answers? What am I ignoring deep within my being, and challenging our seeker within to revisit some past steps and potentially rewrite our own history and strengthen through the efforts required, and that's Capricorn. Of course, on a practical level, it's a time of not really engaging in much other than the right kind of inquiry, but it is going to be a promising end of year for the bonds that are unshakable, things that have shown up, that have been there, that have really held you back in life, and you perhaps haven't even noticed them, but somehow they will re-emerge. You'll notice them this end of year, and you'll be so thankful for people and circumstances that you have perhaps not given enough credit to, that have been so present, so there for you, and ideally, may even get time with them. So there is this energy there too, based on the retrogrades. And then finally, Jupiter also wanting to station direct, which is happening around the end of year, right on the new year. So, with Jupiter being in retrograde as well, with all of this, and Chiron too, I think healing, transparency in healing, confidence in healing, but also starting to have a very honest and fair conversation with ourselves around just the value, again, of the bare necessities and how to take care of what those bare necessities are by not depleting a certain kind of degree of optimism in our being and lightness of being, and not letting the burden of it all, of what needs to be done, and I guess the expectation at this juncture in life, become a limit to the power of optimism and working with every given moment. And again, raising that frequency through the alchemy of the heart, through the power of the heart, because our hearts are there. We are not machines. We are not at all robots. So let's not surrender to, I guess, a downgrade. We can indeed send so much love and goodness and tenderness to all the machines and all the AIs and all sorts of things that come at us, and that we, I guess, have to accept, that we don't really have that big of a capacity to control. We can still love everything, care for everything truly, including ourselves. So that is the point. So let's make that very strong this end of year. And it's okay to be conscious from your heart for the natural disasters happening on a worldwide level, the earthquakes, the floods, the torrential rain, the eruptions, the fires. It's okay to be aware, consciously connecting with that from the heart. It's okay to be bonding with all these wars and being able to just hold space for that, and do prayer and do ceremony with all your heart for all these suffering planes of existence right now, and pray and beg that, no one has to go through these things ever again. Have that goodness and time to just keep doing that with your heart. It can never be lost. It can never be ever stained. That authenticity, wishing the best for others, being able to care and embrace everything and everyone, and be there for everything and everyone in such a way. So work with this incredible time of year that is going to be one that requires our commitment. It requires us to show up, but it also requires us to have some time for ourselves to learn the lessons and not force anything, especially not from now until first week of January 2024. If there was a New Year's resolution, one that could be even more, I guess, awake and rich and active, is just this capacity of the heart for that to never leave us, and for us to be so sure of it, even more confident that it's there, and it's never gonna, I guess, let us down. Doesn't matter how many times it hurts, how many times we feel just the miseries that can happen in this thing called life. It's so important to heal and to let that love and light shine through, so that we aren't numb or so cold and so detached from the truth of our experiences, right? We've got to just keep accepting and allowing things to be, but never losing heart. So that's what will change this world and make it far more better than it is right now. If we all fight for that best part of us and don't let the forced, appetizers or what could be futuristically blink us away into complete oblivion and have no idea what we're doing or why we're doing it. We have far more authority than we think. So yeah, let's find a harmonious way to step into the future as it comes, but with such practices at the front, the front line, right there, heart. So thank you so much. And yeah, I'm going to do so much more around 2024 astrology. I am deeply with all of you and always have been, as you know, and continue to do my best. It is remarkably tough right now, everywhere, but I think we're tough hearts, aren't we? In the sense, we're not going to give up. So let's keep beaming. Thank you.